Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. We're about to start in 3 minutes. So, if you have your friend or anyone you feel wants to transition into DevOps, this is the time you need to invite them over to join this section. Hi everyone. So welcome to Tech with Heroes podcast. And today is going to be on transitioning into DevOps. And this is why we are actually the reason why we're actually doing this aspect of tech field, which is DevOps, is because we've gotten some requests from our community members that they want to transition into DevOps and they would like to get a mentor who would put them through and get some knowledge on how they can transition into DevOps. And that's why we brought here a guest, Opayemi Alao. I've always known him to be in the backend space, but currently now is a DevOps engineer at Bitwarden, and would want to learn one or two things from him basically, and also know how we can also transition into tech. So if you have friends or techies that want to transition into DevOps or has seen DevOps as a tech field that they want to explore, kindly share this YouTube link to them so they can join in and be opportune to ask the mentor questions, regardless of questions that they have, as far as in line with today's topic, transition into DevOps. The mentor is going to be up to answer. And if you're going to be watching this YouTube video after the live session, maybe you're going to be watching the recorded video, you can also drop in your questions in the comment section. We'll always do well to respond to the questions. We'll share the questions to the mentor and get in response and reply whoever has sent in the question in the YouTube channel. So do well to stay tuned. And yes, in about now, we'll be calling on the guest, we'll be having the guest to the show so as to enjoy the show with him. Uh, yeah. Hi, hi. Hello. Seems you are muted.
Yeah, that's true. Hello.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Okay, so how you doing, Ayemi Alao?
I am doing very well. Thank you. How are you doing too?
Yeah, I'm good, and I'm happy to have you on the show. It's an honor. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much.
I'm glad to be here as well.
Okay, quick one into today's topic, transitioning into DevOps. And then when it came to mind, I'm like, okay, transitioning into DevOps and Opeyemi, okay. I've always known you to be a backend person as to Node.js and all. But before we dive in, right, because it's just a lot of questions popping up as to okay, how, why, where, when, what, but then
Mm.
just quickly brief us about you, introduction, who Okoyemi Alao is, DevOps engineer in this space, and all of that.
Thank you very much. My name is Opeyemi Alao, as written on the screen, and I am a DevOps engineer at Bitwarden. Um, I currently live in the United Kingdom. Came here to do my master's in computer science. I've been in the field overall for almost 5 years now, and on the
Okay.
DevOps side of things for about 3 years now. Um, yeah, I think that's basically so I don't get ahead of myself. So that's basically it for introduction. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that brief introduction. So I would want to know, like, I've known you to be Node.js backend. I don't know, but the little I know about you. So, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, DevOps. So, how did you like? What's your journey like? At what point did you realize it's DevOps for me? And all of that. So, maybe you can just brief us on your journey and what
Okay.
motivated you to.
Okay. So the journey has been kind of like it wasn't my intention to get into DevOps, but my first fresh out of coding school, my first backend development role, I was like the sole backend guy there, and uh, being the backend guy, I'm also in charge of putting what I built in a place where everyone else can see it. They wouldn't always want to come to my laptop and see if it's working or not. Uh,
Okay.
talk to the also to integrate with the front end person and stuff like that. So they hired me as a back end person, even as a junior back end person. But nobody
Wow.
was going to tell me, uh, okay, I've done it. So what else? We can't see it. So that means you've not done it. So my job automatically included putting things where people can see it. And then I went the rabbit hole of YouTube looking for how to deploy a Node.js. Like you said, I used to write Node.js very well. uh, Node.js and then I realized that I like being on the terminal very well. So of course
Okay.
I spun up a what do they call it on DigitalOcean. I spun up a virtual machine on DigitalOcean, start interacting with it from my laptop, and I think I was using a Windows laptop then, and then a lot of reading, a lot of documentation, a lot of YouTube videos and stuff. I was able to deploy those things, and people were able to use it and stuff. So, in retrospect, after we've done some of those things, I realized that I like what I was doing then, even better than writing
Okay.
code. I like
Okay.
actually uh, putting things where people can see it, creating services on Linux because it was a Linux server that I spun up. Um, uh, Interacting, creating services on Linux on the Linux OS, running the application that I built and everything. So it was very fascinating to me. And then I told myself then that, okay, maybe in the next 5 years, I'm going to go into DevOps. I told myself, like, oh, I gave myself like 5 years. And as my journey would have it, it wasn't up to
Okay.
5 years. I think maybe like a few months after, I'm like, no, I think I
Okay.
need to go to DevOps now. So yeah, that was
Oh.
how the journey. It was kind of like coincidental by my experience that I had with my first job. So that's what led me to DevOps.
Oh, okay. So, due to the chunk of work you got in the first job, you felt okay, this was actually the thing for you, basically. Okay, so
Absolutely.
during the transition, were there anything like challenges because that was not your initial field, right? And
Yeah.
um, in the workplace you were that brought the whole light of DevOps. I'm so sure you just didn't start and you were just doing so well in the space of DevOps. So, what were the challenges you faced, or did you just all of a sudden scale out and all of that? So, I would like
So
to know. Yeah.
so at that point, I didn't know it was called DevOps, right?
Oh,
Like I
wow.
didn't know that this was what DevOps means. It was later in the journey that I learned that okay, this is actually what this thing is called, right? And then I went on to get a couple of backend role after my first role,
Okay.
and um, and I would say that what actually put me into the role is were the challenges I was facing because after my first job, the second job too wasn't really good, and then I felt like this is it's high time I just go and do this thing, and then I had to stop working to like okay, let me focus on DevOps. So I
Okay,
stopped
so you
working for a while.
stopped working while you were still
Yeah,
in tech.
yeah, I stopped working. I stopped actively writing code. Say I want to
Okay.
dev into DevOps now, and I feel like um, devs. You know why I'm laughing?
Why?
Because there has been conversation since a couple of days ago about how using devs in conversation is AI and not human, and then I just
Oh,
randomly said the devs right now. That's what's funny.
okay.
Yeah, so I stopped working. Like, okay, this is what I want to do now. So there are some personal things that happened around that time as well. that just made me kind of like give up on like this. Let me go and do this now. Also, there was also the part where I try to look for job, and then I see DevOps role, junior DevOps role, and then I see that they are probably going to be paying this junior DevOps role better than me, that is now a back end developer, right? So I
Okay.
knew that this is where my journey is going, because I already liked it, you know.
And money became another motivation.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Money.
Okay.
I feel like we should normalize making
Saying,
making the reason why I did this was because I want my financial status to be better. Like
yeah, yeah,
people shouldn't
sure.
feel
Yeah. That's why
people
I
should
spelled it out for you, you know.
yeah, people shouldn't feel bad because why did you start doing this thing? Oh, well, it was because of my financial situation. Yeah, it's a very solid reason, to be honest.
Sure.
So yeah, my financial situation, and I mean the motivation was that if I do this, there is a prospect that I will be paid better. So
Okay.
so I there was also so that was also on one side, and I was kind of lucky, maybe not kind of, I was very lucky, because the journey was not kind of like, it wasn't that I knew what exactly I wanted to do. I needed to. I just know that I want to do this. So how to get there was not very straight. So I got two scholarship along the way. The first one was the scholarship was actually closed. It was on one platform called Dare.io. And on that platform, uh, it's a DevOps platform. It's a DevOps training platform. It wasn't actual code development. It was
Okay.
tailored to DevOps things. And then the founder put up a scholarship on LinkedIn. It has closed. And then a friend of mine told me that he got this scholarship a few days ago, but it has closed now. If I would try to reach out to the founder, and then I reach out to the founder on LinkedIn that I need this thing. I need my life like depends on it and stuff. And then he was like, oh yeah, I have like he liked my enthusiasm about it and everything. And then he gave me the scholarship even after it has closed. So the people
Wow.
that were awarded the scholarship, they started like a week before I started with them. And then I just once I started like this, I just so it was in lessons like lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's like lesson 25 or thereabout. And then in like 1 week, I've I've gotten to like lesson like I've outrun all the people that started before me and stuff. It was like, oh yeah, the energy was there.
The energy,
So
yeah.
so I went through the program. Along the line in the program, I got another Udacity scholarship. This one was Udacity scholarship, and that was Blacks in Technology, sponsored by Blacks in Technology, and I got that one too. That was a cloud, is it cloud engineering or cloud DevOps course, and then I went through that as well. So those were like the motivation that led me to DevOps. Now to the question, it wasn't those time. It wasn't like the challenges.
Easy.
They were like oh definitely they were not easy, but they weren't challenges. They were things I see that I needed to do to get to where I want to be. Yeah.
Okay, so based on this journey, would you say that starting out as a backend Node.js dev helped you scale through this DevOps part, or they were not just in sync?
So I would say that it wasn't just help. It was, I mean, it is still is a necessity,
Hmm.
right? Doing backend, there are some things that you learn, like you don't intend to learn them, but you learn them along the way. They're like processes. For example, now in software development, no matter the programming language you're writing, you know what it means that when you get a code base, you have to build them to test them. You build them,
Okay.
you run them, those kind of things. You interact with your code, with your program from your VS Code terminal and things like that. Those things you learn them, right? And because you've already and then of course software development lifecycle, you are aware of how software is built. Those things are imported. Like they would go with you to what you'll be doing in DevOps. And what is really DevOps? DevOps is really just what happens after um,
Right.
software developer says they've delivered the code, right? So your experience actually interacting with the code in the past will also help you doing your roles and everything as a DevOps engineer when developers, and you're no more developing now, but you know what it feels like or what it means to develop. And then now that your role is what happens um, after the developers and code to you, you can relate it to where the code is coming from, what has actually happened. When you're interacting with their code, you can read some errors and know that this is probably where the problem is and stuff. So it is really, really, really an essential um, um, skill or experience to have to be very successful in DevOps.
Okay, thank you so much. Before I ask the next question, for those that are just joining in, if you have questions relating to how to transition into DevOps, you can drop in your question in the comment section so I can read it out for our guest here to answer. Thank you. Okay, so okay, I mean you made mention of while you were talking, you were just making it sound as though DevOps is that easy, since it's not, it's after the developers, like the software developers have written the codes and all of that. So does
Mm.
it mean that you on the DevOps part, you really don't do so much, or you don't really write so much and all of that?
So when you like neck deep into DevOps, you are not actively writing the business logic again. It
Okay.
doesn't mean that you're no more writing code. You still write code. You still write uh, majorly scripts to help processes, to help the developers. You still write a lot of things that are not actively like active programming language. For example, you still write YAML files for your CI/CD. You still write YAML files uh, for your Terraform and things like that. Actually, yeah, they're like in YAML formable in Terraform uh, extension. But yeah, it's still like you still write a lot of things, but you still have to write code. Your understanding of code or programming languages will help you when you're writing many other things that you have to do as a developer. So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying that having the experience from a developer's perspective helps you. It
Okay.
helps you. It helps you understand things better in the DevOps world.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So you had mentioned that the struggle of getting a job and all of that made you stop Node.js and transition into DevOps. So was it very easy to get a job when you finished learning on the DevOps part, or how did you get your first role in DevOps?
It it wasn't because of getting a job. It was because of my experience with my employers. So I just wanted to correct that first, right? It was, I think I was just pretty unlucky with employers back then when I was working as a developer, right? So that's uh, made me to want to go to DevOps, right? But to the main question, getting a job as a DevOps engineer, um, I wouldn't say it's easy, right? I wouldn't say it's easy, but because if I say it's easy, then I will be very biased to.
Okay.
So there's something called, I learned this thing very recently. There's something called survivors bias. It means that
Okay.
people that were people that were able to people that were able to survive a scenario,
Okay.
they sometimes are biased towards their skill, their privileges, and like they don't realize that sometimes there are some things that they were fortunate about that help them in the process, right? So I
Okay.
would not say that it's easy, but I would say that having the right skill and knowing where to, I don't say knowing where to look for a job because I think everybody knows how to look for a job. But I would say that
Okay.
uh I had like I think two trials. So
Okay.
during the journey, while I was still learning DevOps, actually, I saw one role. What was it? Junior Kubernetes engine. At that point, I don't know Kubernetes, but I just want the industry experience very fast, like very fast. And then I applied for it. I got the job, but it was a US
Wow.
company. But they don't want, yeah, but they don't want to. They've never hired anyone from my country then when I was in Nigeria. They don't want to. They've never hired anyone from Nigeria, so they don't have any payment plan for anyone in Nigeria. And I was like, even if you guys are not going to pay me, I still want to work. It is the experience that matters most to me, right? So they said they weren't going to do that. So I didn't get the job eventually. And then I think that I learned for a while. I went to learn Kubernetes and stuff. Maybe not very well, but I learned for a while. And then I applied for another job. And I got to the last stage of the job, and Nigeria happened to me basically like there was no
Again.
lights. Yeah, there was no
Oh,
lights.
wow.
I tried to get fuel. Okay, actually, I was gonna go to a different place to have the final stage of the interview, and then when I got there, I've already bought fuel. The generator was set, and then when like 30 minutes to the interview, we tried to start the generator, it didn't start and stuff. So we were trying to like run again. And we've already poured the fuel into the generator, so we couldn't use another gen. Then we had to like go get another. It was very chaotic that day. And at the end of the day, I was just panting. I was panting on the interview like this. And then
I can imagine.
and then I lost the job basically. So it was on the third trial that I now got the job. So I would say that the market at that point was pretty open to DevOps engineer, DevOps, cloud native, roles like that. The market was very open. It was very, in fact, I think after my company hired me, they had a lot more people because
Oh,
there was
wow.
just that much job in the market then. So all those things would facilitate getting a job. I would not say that experience is all knowing or it's like the template for everyone to have. And I would not say it's hard to get a job or it's easy to get a job. I would just say that having your right skill to go through the interview processes. I said processes because that first job, I went through 5 different stages. And
Wow.
immediately I started with the interview, I knew I wasn't backing down on this job. Like I knew that I would get this job. Like so I did everything I had to do to get the job. Then so I would say that having the right skill to go through the interview stages and of course being tenacious, being doing everything you know you want to do to get a job. Anyone could get a job with that skill set.
Okay, thank you so much. So I got a question here
Okay.
um, from one of the listeners. I am currently looking to get into DevOps, and I have been struggling with getting a guideline or curriculum for getting DevOps skills. Can you recommend a resource?
Okay. I know everyone's journey wouldn't always be the same, right? But for the person that asks, what are the skills? Where is the person? Like, what are you currently doing? Then we can use that to channel your pathway to DevOps, right? For example, for a newbie, a pure starter, like from ground zero, the first thing you want to do, right, is learn Bash script. Go and
Okay,
learn the Bash programming language. That's the first thing because it makes your life easy. It makes you literally can't do anything without Bash, without writing scripts or doing one or two things on the terminal, you know. So do be comfortable on the terminal and learn Bash scripting. That's the
okay,
first step. That's the first step. And after then we can now talk about okay, use roadmap.sh. There's this website where you could get pathway to learn any skill. It's really, really very versatile. So use roadmap.sh uh to get idea about tools to learn, what are the things to learn. And to be honest, you don't have to learn
Roadmap.
everything.
You had mentioned roadmap.sh.
Yeah, roadmap.sh is a very versatile platform where you can get your pathway from where you are to where you want to be. It's for many skills like that.
I think the person mentioned I am an experienced Node.js engineer and I have some experience with networking.
So that is good then. That is good if the person has a Node.js experience. It means the person is already a software developer somewhat. So um so with that, I would say the person can start from trying to get scholarship on Udacity, Cloud DevOps Engineering bootcamp is there. If you go through that program, you would definitely get pointers to what to learn, on what to learn even after you finish the program. And to be honest, putting my career so far in perspective, I didn't even I finished the cloud DevOps engineering uh bootcamp scholarship. I finished it, but I didn't finish the first scholarship that I got before I started looking for a job. So you don't have to
Job.
learn everything. You just have to like know well enough to be comfortable when you get a job. And you have to
Okay.
also believe in yourself that okay, this is really me now. I think I can do this now. And nobody knows it all. There are a lot of things that you still get to like know on the job, you know. So yeah, I think, and want to I don't want to sound like I'm selling a platform here, but Dari.io too is a very good platform that I use. I don't know how.
Dare.io. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's also a very good. I'm not selling them or anything. It's just what I've experienced. I've seen them.
Okay.
I've gone through them, and uh, and I'm just kind of like recommending, not recommending them per se, but just talking about what I experienced going through them. So they're also a good platform for DevOps skill. There are also a lot more platforms that could help you from wherever you are to where you're going. But if you really want to do it yourself, right, do a lot of research on YouTube. In fact, okay, type in roadmap to DevOps engineer on YouTube alone, you have a lot of resources to consume, right? So tools to learn, things to be comfortable with before you start putting yourself out there for a DevOps job. Yeah. So that's what I would say regarding that.
Okay, so we have another question. What would you have done differently when you started learning to get into DevOps? And what are the gotchas to look out for?
What I would have done differently.
Like now that you're already in DevOps, then
Yeah.
you were just, so what would you have done if you go back to learning it? What would you have done differently when you started learning?
To be honest, I think maybe starting a lot sooner. But I also feel like I didn't waste a lot of time before I got started. Like I
Okay.
didn't really waste a lot of time. I just knew, for example, now assuming I was working and I was doing DevOps on the side, means that I would have shared my time with what I was working or the company I was working for, and the new skill I was trying to get. But me as a person, I'm a very when I want to do something, like nothing else mattered at that point. And that was really the reason why I just stopped working. I actually resigned from my job. Like, okay, I'm going to stop this job now to focus on this new thing. All right.
Even when they were
So
paying you.
yeah. So I told you I got the first job, and then I got my second job, and then I was working the second job, and then I stopped working the second job, and then I said I want to go into DevOps and stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So I like to be very focused on what I'm doing, like what I believe I want to do, and get it done as soon as possible. So I feel like what I could have want to uh, do differently would be maybe getting sooner, but I didn't waste a lot of time doing it. So to put into perspective, I learned I learned to I learned trying to go into DevOps in the space of like 5 months. So I started in February, and then I started interviewing for the first DevOps job that I got in June. So it's like
Wow.
space of 5 months. and then by July, I'd already gotten the job. So
Wow.
what I would have done differently, I feel like I was very lucky because I got two scholarships back to back to get into this thing. So I didn't even like spend money trying to learn these or what do I really
Checking.
want to learn and stuff. So it was kind of like a very lucky shot for me as well because I didn't have to spend a lot of time trying to know what to learn and maybe take a waste time on that or what do I learn next and stuff like that. So I went through the scholarship. I felt like I was ready enough to get a job, and then I started applying for jobs. So it was kind of like pretty straightforward for me.
Okay, so before I ask the okay questions are coming in, but before I ask them, I want us to talk on the skill sets. So would you help us with like skill sets, like for people that want to dive into DevOps? What are the skill sets you feel they need to have, get themselves ready? When it comes to like front end, we all know, okay, maybe it's JavaScript, it's this script, and all of that script. So when it comes to
Mm.
DevOps, what are those things you feel okay somebody needs to have before the person can fully say, okay, I'm a DevOps engineer?
Okay. First off, you want to be um, you want to be very comfortable with interacting with. So you want to be comfortable interacting with the servers, right? You
Okay.
want to you want to be comfortable on the terminal, basically, right? And how do you be comfortable on the terminal? I think I mentioned earlier is being comfortable with bash scripting, navigating the
That's true.
terminal and stuff. Yeah. So comfortable with Linux, right? So one of the things that I learned along the line was that, oh yeah, there's actually an operating system, blah blah. So I and to aid my comfortability with the Linux operating system and stuff. So I changed my operating system, my computer operating system, and I changed it to a Linux so I can really be like interact with terminal on a daily. I don't want to always be opening folders and stuff. Just navigate my computer from my terminal and stuff like that. So that is number one. Number two is I would say number two I would say is learning CI/CD, right? You want to you want to know what are the concept of CI/CD. Well, like why are we actually doing CI/CD and things like that, right? So you want to learn things like that as well. You want to learn, of course, when you go through your training to be a DevOps engineer, you learn some of these tools, but also some personal things that you can inculcate into. Because I don't want to be mentioning some of the tools one after the other because it's going to take a lot of time listing those tools. So, but some of the personal attributes that you want to inculcate into some of the tools that you would learn along your transitioning into DevOps would be you ask questions a lot, sort of like a typical skills that a typical soft skill that software engineers have. You are inquisitive.
Okay.
You want to know how does this work, right? And ability to ability to be comfortable reading documentation because you wouldn't have a lot of things done. You have to like maybe research how does this work, read a lot of documentations to because it might be that you're the first person trying this thing out. Your company might be the first time. It might be the first time your company is trying these particular tools out. Okay, sometimes your company will say, okay, we are doing POC. We want to achieve this thing. There are a lot of tools out there. You go and test this tool out. You test this tool out. And that tool might not be very popular, the one that might be assigned to you. And then you have to like go down the rabbit hole and see how it works and stuff. Not a lot of documentation and stuff that might even be available. So POCing things and really the ability to kind of like look into things that are, sorry, excuse me, that are not very common in the market and get into it and read a lot of documentation to actually get into it. So, ability to research, I think I'll put it like that, ability to research and stay put with it. And also, uh, I would say ability to jump into things without having prior knowledge and stuff. I think one of the things that my manager at work usually tell me is that he appreciate the fact that I haven't done something before and I'm just like bring it on, I'll get it done, things like that. So yeah, I think those are like inquisitiveness, ability to research about things even though you've not done it before, and ability to jump into things that areas, environment you're not familiar with, basically.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I would like to take one question from the listeners. So, would you advise someone with no technical background or skill to transition straight into DevOps?
Okay, so I would say that DevOps is a technical skill. So saying with no technical background is not the problem. The problem is, do you want to remain non-technical while you want to become a DevOps? Because DevOps is a technical skill. So not having a technical background is okay, but your journey to technicality starts when you want to become a DevOps. So you've got to carry the mindset that, okay, now I'm now a technical person and I'm learning technical things. What does learning DevOps what does it take, right? And then you begin to see that, oh, you want to learn bash scripting, you want to learn this, you want to learn that. So if trying to be a DevOps engineer is still your goal, then you will learn those things. They're not. It's not having a technical background is not where it stops. It's where it starts. And then going forward from there, be comfortable learning technical things. That's how I see it for anyone.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So, anybody can actually be a DevOps engineer, it's just the mindset, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, so taking up one question. I think the questions are just coming in. Like, we will not be taking so much. You can drop in your questions. We'll always like come back to answer those questions because we still have our own questions piled for the guests too. So, a question is up. How is the AI trend affecting the DevOps engineering role?
So I would give I like to give live cases for this particular
Okay.
question. So as you see, one of the widely used AI tool right now is generative AI, generate
Yeah.
text and things like that for you. So and engineers have started inculcating that into how DevOps work, right? So the question, how is AI trend affecting DevOps engineers? I would say as many technical, just like the many technical role in the tech ecosystem, it has positively impacted uh, the role in the sense that, for example, you're working on a Kubernetes cluster, you're deploying stuff, and for anyone that know, Kubernetes cluster, there are a lot of things in the cluster that can generate a lot of logs. Like you just be generating logs and stuff. Your kubelet can generate logs, your controller generate logs and things like that. So one of the ways that AI has impacted DevOps is that you see all your logs that you have to into, you have to look one you have to look each line to know what is actually happening in your cluster and things like that. You can there are now AI tools where that will be consuming your logs and then you can easily spot problem out, like, hey, what is happening in this cluster? And then the AI tool will just read your logs and then output faster solutions, faster answers to you, and then you move on with your life. So it's made the day-to-day of an engineer, of a typical DevOps engineer life easier, just like many other software engineer as well, right? So I would say this is pretty early to see that, oh, what is the mighty effect of AI on the DevOps engineer, on the DevOps engineer role. But for now, we are still kind of like consuming the generative AI, the text manipulation and understanding aspect of DevOps. There has not been a lot of AI models uh, deployed into DevOps. Maybe, oh, now we now have one AI tool For example, now there was Devin.ai that was introduced I think, is it up to a month ago now? Say it can now act as a software engineer and stuff. And while that was groundbreaking and everything, there's not been something like that. That, oh yeah, we now have a tool uh, uh, that want to take your job as a DevOps engineer. We don't have that now. What we basically have now are tools that ingest your logs and then give you a faster solution. So for now, it's on the positive trend right now, not on the negative impact trend.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you have or have you heard any misconception or myth about DevOps? Maybe there's a misconception.
Yeah, I think pretty much when I was early in my career, and it was that
Would you share? Okay.
like DevOps engineering role is and you typically see stuff like that in my country, for example. DevOps engineering role is for a company that is standard, right?
Okay.
So depending on what product the company is doing and stuff, I mean, you've pushed to market, you're still pretty small and stuff, and you make your developers to be doing the role of DevOps, even though they wouldn't do it very well. There's this idea that, oh, DevOps role is for big organizations. No. Why are we even doing DevOps? Before we even talk about why we're doing DevOps, we want to see what was happening before we do DevOps. So, for example, before DevOps, there were how do companies, organizations deploy stuff? It usually take time. For example, now the people have been using version 1.1 of your product since like January, and it's not like you don't have engineer in-house. You have engineer in-house, but and they've developed maybe version 1.2. They've even gone ahead to start developing version 1.3. But to put version 1.2 to the user, it's going to take a lot of organizational, should we do this now? How will affect user? Things like that, right? So DevOps is there to fast track that process. So if your organization have products and they have things to show to their people, they are ready to your company is ready to have a dedicated DevOps engineering role. Yeah, that is one.
Okay, thank you. I have a question from the audience. What programming language do you think is best to have in your arsenal in order to do DevOps? I think, okay, just go ahead to answer.
So there are a lot of programming languages, right? There are a lot of programming languages that you can learn as a developer and stuff. But being in DevOps, I think that there are a lot of tools that we use in DevOps. It's always very close to home if the language that you write is the same language that the tool you're using was written in, or the same language that you write, or the same language is the same language that is being used in your organization. That's even on the side. But for DevOps role, I'll mention two programming languages, Golang and Python. Python is very, very versatile. We know that already by now. So Python, you would use Python to do a lot of automation. In fact, an automation that you write in Bash scripting, you can also write it in Python even easier. I mean, I've seen a lot of instances where we have Bash scripting and we're like, oh no, let's rewrite this thing in Python so it can be very versatile. So yeah, Python and Golang are like the two major programming language that you want to have in your arsenal.
Okay.
And I mean I want to add that that is my personal opinion anyway. Someone would hear now, would come and I'll be like, No, we don't use.
That
That's strictly my subjective opinion.
okay.
So I wanted to add that.
Oh, okay. So I have a question, but it seems I don't know. A lot of persons are interested in this DevOps. A whole DevOps engineer are using the same tools.
Hmm. Definitely not. Definitely not. There are tons and tons of tools out there. For example, let's start with CI/CD, which is like the basic what every organization would have. Why do you have CI/CD? For example, now your engineers build, they work every day, they're pushing new stuff every day, right? You want to continually test what you have in your base branch, maybe your master or your main branch, right? To always be in a growing state, in a state where it's always deployable, right? So that means you keep testing, and you don't. Sometimes your engineer might even wake up in the middle of the night and try to push to try to push to their branch or even to main branch or whatever, right? So you want to have CI/CD pipeline that always takes the code from the developers anytime they push and test it for you, right? So see, there are a lot of CI/CD, right? There's GitLab, there's GitHub Action, there's uh, Circle CI, Travis CI, a lot of tools, right? But the idea is always the same, but the tools will definitely be different. There are people that are using Kubernetes as their container orchestrator. There are people that are using Docker. There are people that are using CRI-O as their container builder, something that builds their container. There are a lot of tools out there. So developers wouldn't always use DevOps. All DevOps teams wouldn't always use uh the same
Tools.
tool. It's definitely going to be varied across organizations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. I would love you to talk about the benefits of implementing DevOps within organization because a lot of persons
Oh,
really do not know like okay they just know we know as front end what front end really do, back end what back end really do, because on my own end, right, I've always just imagined DevOps like I've seen companies that do not have DevOps engineer and then they scale through all of this. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. All of this journey, they still make their money, they still do a lot of things without a need for DevOps engineer in their space, like majorly startups, and they have other tech talent aside DevOps engineer. So I would want to know the benefits of DevOps engineer and how it has affected both business wise in company and why you think it's like important, because someone can say I'm transitioning into tech, yeah, and then the next question is what's that skill that I can have that every company needs me. I don't know if you understand that kind of question. So when it comes to DevOps engineer, we have seen cases whereby not all company recruit for DevOps engineer. So would you like want to share the benefits that company are
for of
missing
an
out?
the benefit of an organization to inculcate DevOps practices in their
Yes,
SDLC.
yeah.
Okay. So first off, the company that wants to hire a DevOps will have a product, right? And that product have customers. So the number one benefit for an organization is fast to market, easy market access, right? You are
Okay.
constantly developing things. You are constantly iterating, right? So it's fast iteration. It is that we want to quickly from development to production is faster. There's a guidelines that our code now take that sometimes doesn't involve human intervention to achieve. So it makes and then it reduces errors. People, for example, now you don't have a DevOps engineer. Let's paint this scenario together. You don't have a DevOps engineering role in your organization. You have
Okay.
customers. You have, and then I will use some popular organizations in my country. So you have product, you have customers, uh, you have in-house engineers, right? But you don't have a DevOps engineer, or you don't have a clear pathway uh, to DevOps engineering practices within the organization. So it is that sometimes you have people that deploy stuff for you, right? They deploy changes to the production and stuff. But we are human. Sometimes they make mistake, and then you see that everything just went blank and people couldn't access your product and everything, and then everywhere became fire and all that. So DevOps practices tends to eliminate human errors like that by automating processes, making sure that uh, instead of, because all of us are human, we are bound to make mistakes sometimes. So it removes, first off, it's fasting time to market. Time to market is usually the time when a product is finished, a product is developed, like it's in final stage, and then the time it takes from that stage to when it gets to the customers and their phones and stuff. So it's fastening up that process. Then it eliminates human errors. And of course, we have a lot of companies. We've seen the impact of not having a solid DevOps practice in, even, I don't know if we call them Fortune 500 in my country, because sometimes you see people complaining that this bank application is not working for a few days, for 3 days. Do you know what's happening in there? Like, do you ever imagine that? What are their engineers doing that makes a bank app? I want to use my money and stuff, and I can't use it, right? Because my bank software product is misbehaving and stuff like that. Having a solid DevOps practices, and of course, we have to first start to see DevOps as practice before we see it as a role. These are things that the engineers in the companies are doing. These are like the processes, the policies in place that guides bringing products from engineers and to users and. So what are those things that are in place? So the first thing that DevOps does is that it eliminates errors. I've not seen, I mean, we've even seen a time when Facebook was just out. Like, it just went blank and nobody could use Facebook
Wow,
uh,
yeah.
for a while and stuff. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp at one point like that. So there will be sometimes like that, but we don't see things like that often, as much as we see things like that happen to products that we, even popular products that we use in Nigeria. So those are like the things that DevOps helps organization do. And we cannot imagine a global product like Instagram saying that, hey, users, we have to, and then sometimes we see the bank app say that, hey, their users, we want to do something from this time to this time. So you won't be a solid, we don't see things like that happen for global applications like Twitter. Imagine Twitter saying from this time to this time we won't be able to use it. It's not possible. It's because they have solid uh, DevOps engineering practices in place in the organization. So those are the things that DevOps bring to the organization. And what are now the effect of that? Say now, people don't, your users don't have to wait for some times before they use them. It's that there will be more profit. How would that bring more profit? It's that there are more changing. You're changing your application very fast, and you're taking it to customer, and customers are liking it, and of course, customer satisfaction. People want to use your app and things like that. So it brings more profit to the organization.
Okay, thank you. But if you look at the country, Nigeria, the system, it seems as though there are no much openings for developers.
I mean, I wouldn't say for sure, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's as accepted in my country as it is accepted anywhere. You would
You know?
see companies of less than 10 people that are having dedicated DevOps role because they know it. Usually you will see one person doing wearing the cap of many role like that, because they know they know the essence of this particular thing. And if I can do it and I can actually still write programs, then I can do it. But it doesn't eliminate the fact that there is a need for that role. So I feel like it's the acceptance of founders, right? Because of course founders want to cut costs, and uh make more money and things like that. But in the process of trying to cut costs, you're also cutting process as well, which in the long run affects the product outputs to the users and stuff. So products should be more open to have a dedicated road for something that help the organization in the long run, basically.
Okay, we have a question. Would you say the DevOps job space is now saturated compared to when you got in?
Yeah, I would say yes. And I would also say that it's not just DevOps, it's a lot of roles. It's it's also the software development um, field too is saturated, I think. And but I mean, saturated or not, if you have your skill, you are still definitely going to be relevant. So you don't gauge your skill based on what is trending or what is not trending. You gauge your pathway based on like what you want to do. Have you learned it? Like I don't see myself on the okay, it's not saturated. I don't want to go in there from that lens. I don't see myself like that. So I would advise that you don't see yourself. Of course, definitely there are a lot of people that are now doing this job now that have tried to transition over the years and have gotten in right now. But it doesn't stop you from if you go to LinkedIn now and you type DevOps engineer, you see more than a million jobs. So it means that even though there are not a lot of people there, there are still a lot of jobs out there for you. So it's just to upskill, like put the focus on your own skill to the point where you know that it's saturated or not, you are still going to be very valuable to the market, basically.
Okay, it seems the audience for today, their energy are for just money. I don't know. I'm not sure it's because you had mentioned earlier enough that we should normalize the fact that we should say transition into a particular field because of money. Because I'm just getting comments on is there still money and all of that in the space? Is there still okay? So let's take this question. What advice would you give to a developer trying to transition to DevOps? And sorry, before you answer this, Rashid, your question, is it easy for front end to catch up with DevOps skills? How long is it going to take front end? I think you had answered this with the non-technical. That okay. Yeah, right.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I feel like I've answered it, but I don't know from which question. But uh, let me answer it again. Thing
Okay.
is, if either you've been on the front end or you've been on the back end, either you've been on either side of software development, you one thing you learn inadvertently is that you now know the processes by which a product is being developed, be it front end or back end. You know the software development lifecycle. You've learned that without you even knowing. And that is really where DevOps exists. Like where that's the core in which it exists. So you know that if, for example, now you're a front end person, you know that when you get your code newly from GitHub, right? You have to like run it, npm install or whatever you're using, right? You know those things, right? And then when you get to DevOps, you see that okay, you test your code as well, npm test whatever it is you're using to test, right? And then when you get to DevOps, you see that in your pipeline, you want to test this same code that you used to test locally, right? So uh, you now get to write those things in your pipeline. And then when you deploy the pipeline, you see that the same thing you are getting locally when you are running your test is the same thing that is running there. It's just that now you're not the one running it, it's the system that is running it. So the learning curve between your role to DevOps is not that far wide apart. Of course, you have to learn a lot of DevOps tools. DevOps is majorly with tools and stuff, right? So you the learning curve is not so steep. You're like in the field already. You just have to upgrade your skill to learn some tools and stuff. So I wouldn't say it's that wide apart. And you're like if where you're going is like 10, you're like maybe like three already. or 4 thereabout. So yeah, it's not that steep, and
So how long
you
would
just
you give such person to learn?
so learning is very different. Like people learn differently. People learn very, very differently. Someone can, and what is motivating people are different. So for the most privileged
Let's
person
not
in
talk money here.
no, it's not money. It's not money really.
Okay.
The most privileged person in the world can use a day, a day to learn something. Like he's privileged and he can use a day to learn that thing. The most unprivileged person in the world can learn the same thing for 10 days, right? So it's all based on the individual and what is driving that person. So you can't say this is how long you should be able to learn it from. What if I say this is how long you should be able to learn this from, and then you are focusing on that thing, and then you find out that what am I even learning for this long? And then you spin up your own enthusiasm, and then you learned it in like so it's not cast in stone. It's not it's not something you want to tell people. It's just what drives you and what you want to learn and how much you want to. That's like a personal decision, really.
Okay, let's move to a quick fun fact before we continue the questions I'm getting in. So, fun fact about you as a DevOps engineer. What's that fun part of you as a DevOps engineer?
You mean fun fact?
Fun, fun.
Fun. Is that really fun? I like documentaries. I like documentaries, science documentaries, crime documentaries, war documentaries. I like those things. I don't know if
Okay,
that's fun, but
was it was
that's
it
a
was
fact
it
about me.
okay? Yeah, fact about you, but was it added when you started DevOps? Like, was it like a new thing you
Oh,
developed?
does it have to be something with DevOps? These are
No, it doesn't
something that I've liked.
necessarily. Yeah, that's the point. It doesn't necessarily need to be like into DevOps, but I'm saying that okay, now that you're in this actual space, maybe there was something fun about you that added to what you normally do as a fun person and all of that.
I don't think DevOps is there to add fun to your life. It's meant to
So
take
it's a
care.
boring thing. Is that what you're saying?
it's I mean you have you seen some memes where you see people say uh uh, my friends when they see me on the terminal versus memes like that where you do stuff on the terminal and stuff. So I think DevOps makes you a lot more geeky than an average
Okay.
software engineer because now you are typing stuff on your terminal, no one is seeing you, and your friend just saying, "What are you doing on this black thing? What is that thing?" But you know that you are probably taking a file from a server, you're using SCP, you're using this and that, right? So I don't think it adds fun. It adds fun to you it adds fun to your geeky side, not uh not on an everyday kind of fun
Okay.
thing.
So if it's not DevOps, normally your fun part is just documentaries and all of that.
I think so, and surf the internet, I guess. Yeah, but I like war documentaries a lot. Yeah,
Okay, and you
it, it,
enjoy the
I would say that I like history, right? I want to know. Also, I want someone to mention 1930 something, and I go back. Oh yeah, this was what was happening there at that point in time,
oh
right? Yeah.
wow
So I like to know things that has happened
in the
from way
past.
back and stuff like that. Yeah, and then of course part of the human history is war. We can't take that out, and then it gets to put help you to put things into perspective. For example, 1960 was not so very far ago. Like, what were the things that were happening? We don't have computers in 1960, right?
No.
1970, we don't have too. So what were the things that were happening then? How has technology transitioned from living world like that and to developing things like that? And then you see histories of computer and so. By the way, I actually believe that computer is the greatest invention that has ever been made by man. Computer.
Wow.
So yeah. So So yeah, I just kind of like see things from the past like that. It's really puts things into perspective in the present. Yeah. For example, now
Oh,
if you see what's happening in Israel, Gaza, and things that's been happening for a few months now, if you look at it from history, you will see that okay, this thing has been going on from like 1948 when Israel was established, stuff like that. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay, I think I actually enjoyed the conversation with you on how to transition into DevOps. We have our last question, and I think every other questions that are here would come give response to them because of time. We are out of time, and we cannot really answer all your questions. So I'll just pick one question and share, and that's end of.
You
Okay,
know,
others are
I'm actually I'm
okay.
reading some of the comments and they're just
As
funny.
in, I don't know. I think you caused it. You had mentioned money, and everybody's looking into the money aspect right now. Okay.
but but what I mentioned was it's not a shame. It shouldn't be perceived as such to make your motivation, to make what is driving you. It's not even money. I didn't say money. I said to have a better
Financial status.
financial situation. I didn't say money.
Yeah.
Financial situation doesn't necessarily have to be money. It might be just being comfortable, being able to afford anything good you want to get in life. So I think it goes beyond money. It goes to satisfaction. It goes to, you know, yeah. So you people should
Okay.
not be asking me for money.
Okay. Let's take Aditeju's question. What advice would you give to a developer trying to transition to DevOps?
This has definitely happened as part of some of the things I've said today, but I'll say it again. The advice is to be forward thinking, is to be like what is next, like what is next after development. You see that mind that is asking you asking yourself question like, okay, so after after I finish this product, what next after that? You see that interest to know what is even the thing that these people are doing on the other side of things, because a lot of people, I remember when I got the first job, or when I was telling my friends that we went to the same boot camp together, that oh, I'm now doing DevOps and stuff. A lot of people don't know what DevOps is like, what is really, so it's
Sure,
that
DevOps.
interest. So imagine I told my friend that I'm now into DevOps, and he has an inquisitive mind, and then just be like, "What is even DevOps?" And then he began to read about it. So that would propel you as a developer faster into the DevOps world, because then you begin to see tools like Terraform, Ansible, and things like that. And because you're inquisitive, you still want to know how does this thing work, and then you want to try it out on your local laptop, and then you learn about Kubernetes, and then you're like, what is this Kubernetes people are talking about? What does it mean? So that inquisitive mindset is the biggest thing you can have as a developer, to see beyond you and your code and see what happened after you deliver your code to the base branch.
Okay, thank you so much. And we have come to the end of today's podcast. Thank you, Okoyemi Alao, for sharing insights into transitioning to DevOps. And to all of the audience that participated, it was more engaging, and I appreciate you all staying up until now. I don't know if Okoyemi has any words to everyone, because I'm so sure everybody's just like, okay, a lot of persons are like, I want to be like you. You know, that's you, Okoyemi, not me. So so do you have any word aside the advice, maybe anything? And also I think I would appreciate direct because sometimes there are a lot of things on the internet, so trying to streamline to the right one on the internet that they could learn from if you have a direct resource. I think I would love
uh,
to share afterwards.
can you come again? Um, Can you come again with the question because you were skipping at some point?
Oh, okay. I mentioned that first is maybe you have any final words to people relating to DevOps, And the major part is if you have like a direct resource that you could share with me, so I share with everyone, because a lot of persons are just inquisitive on how they can transition into tech. So, and the internet has a lot of space out there, right? They have different resources, and the truth is, internet can also make one get confused. Some person is actually teaching towards a particular part, another person is towards another part. So if you have a direct resource that could help people
Mm,
to delve into DevOps, it would be nice if I can get from you and share later. Or if it's something you can
all
actually
right,
drop in the chat here, then I'll share to the people. So,
all right. I think there are two things that a typical person that wants to delve into DevOps engineering should have. It's that the direction, like what are the tools you need to learn and stuff, and where to learn those tools. So basically, major two parts. So the first one, I've already mentioned it, roadmap.sh is a very good resource for the list of things you want to learn, right? And the second one, I think there are two. I've forgotten the second one, but I'll send it to you. But the first one is Code Cloud. Code Cloud is a very good platform it's literally dedicated to system administration, system engineering, and DevOps things, right? So Code Cloud is a very good platform. I've used Code Cloud for a lot of things. I think I use Code Cloud for my Kubernetes certifications when I was doing CKA, Certified Kubernetes Administrator. So yeah, Code Cloud is a very good platform from literally anything you want to learn from programming language for DevOps. That's like maybe Python or Golang to a lot of tools that we use in the DevOps space. So yeah, DevOps is Code Cloud is a very good platform. Code Cloud with K, so code with KODE and KLOUD, yeah, codecloud.com. That's a very good. Those are like good platforms that I've used so far.
okay, thank you so much, Okpeyemi Alao. I'm dropping you down now. Okay, thank you everyone that have stayed up until now. It's interesting to see engagement from everyone. So, first is I would like you to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed. We do this every Saturday, 7 p.m. or 4 p.m. depending on the guest time available time. And also try to share our YouTube link to friends. Do well to subscribe on our YouTube channel. Do well to follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at Tech with Hero, and spread the good news about Tech with Hero, because we do this a lot. We bring in different guests on the show. Next week, we'll be having Julio Santos talk on um, how to stay in tech when you no longer code. So it's always interesting. Every Saturday, we do this. So try to subscribe and engage yourself in this space. So this is the end of today's podcast, and I'm really, really happy to see engagement, and it shows we all enjoyed today's podcast. So no long cap. Yeah, I enjoyed it too, and I would look into that aspect. Everybody's talking about money, so maybe I also want to make money. Anyways, thank you so much, and see you all next week Saturday, same time, 7 p.m. with a different guest, Julio Santos. Bye for now. And trust me, I am your tech host, Iro Inkechi Omolola.